Good morning and welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. City is back. City said good morning.
Good morning.
Very good, very good, very good. How was it?
Good.
Good. People want, to get the lowdown on what went down at the men's conference. Of course, you did not go to the men's conference.
No.
Rule number one of the men's conference: it did not happen.
What men's conference?
No, what men's conference? Okay, EcoBank is a Pan-African bank, has very many branches in very many African countries. How many African countries?
35.
Very
has
good.
presence in 35 African markets, right? So that means 35 African countries where you go and you'll find the presence of EcoBank. And as well as 4 countries outside of Africa, the UK, France, China, and the UAE. And?
South Africa.
Thank you so much.
Oh, there you go. So what does this mean? That you can plug in, so long as you've plugged in and you move to another country, you can actually find yourself not having to shut down anything, but just carry on from where you left off. EcoBank guarantees that your transactions continuously are seamless, and that the bills that you pay, the things that you do with your account, it doesn't matter where you are, you can carry on with that because you're on this one platform. You're just making sure that your business continues and carries on as usual. Not a group of banks, but a banking group to make sure that you're served in a better way for a better Africa.
Well, let's talk about the plan, all right? What's your plan? So it appears like everybody else has a plan apart from you. When you look around, you're like, these guys are so sorted. People appear like, they're sorted in their life. They've got their things all ducks in a row. They just
They've
move.
looked at the future. They've sorted the future out.
Yeah. Even the present, they're just coasting it. And you're wondering, guy, what happened to me? No, come on, don't worry. I mean, it's never too late to have a plan. What's your plan? It's important to think about the future, like you're saying, City. Think about, okay, it's your children's education, fine. It's your retirement, fine. It's your health, fine. Even the present, what is it that you can do presently that can help you navigate the present journey towards the future? And that is what ICA Lion has been very, very good at. And they say, in fact, why don't you do this? Those things that you're calling worries, those are not worries to us. That's what we do on a daily basis. That's easy peasy. Like,
Come and easy.
Lemon
kabisa.
squeezy.
Lemon squeezy, come and easy. Nini ingine?
Bwana, surely.
Tuachie hapo.
Hapo and sawa.
So ICA Lion say, let's talk about this. Plan at icalion.co.ke. That's how you can basically just write to them, plan at icalion.co.ke, or you just go to their website, icalion.co.ke, and get more information. What's your plan? Don't worry about the plan. Panga your plan. In our next conversation, we want to talk about the Competition Authority of Kenya and what it's been doing. So previously we've hosted managers from the Competition Authority. They've told us about, okay, so this is what the law says about competition. This is what the law says about mergers and acquisitions. This is what the law says about fair business practice. This is what the law says when you flout. And this is how we can slap you. And the last time we had a conversation with someone from Competition Authority, they had just slapped someone heavily. No, that was a box. It was just a whole punch on the face.
That thing wasn't a kick. It was a flying kick.
Yes. And we asked, okay, so how do you arrive at this? And they were like, this is the law, this is a procedure, this is how we go over
And
it.
this is how this person
And this is how
behaved.
they get there. And we asked, but then couldn't you have sorted out this before? And they said, actually, we do this a lot. So the person whose job is to do this a lot is here. Ninette Mwarania is the Manager, Policy and Research at the Competition Authority of Kenya. Ninette, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
As long as you're coming to us for the first time between January and December, it's Happy New Year.
Okay, Happy New Year.
Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Thank you very much.
Here we are not in competition.
Not really.
No.
Well,
We compete.
We have merged and acquired. And we moved on. City is back. He's been away, like you've heard where he was. But of course, he will. I mean, there's an oath. He'll not tell us about it. But he is back with Proverbs from Ghana. Tell us more about Ghana City.
Well,
The currency of Ghana City is called?
it's called a CD. Not
depending
Cindy.
on where you are from, it could also be the city.
Yeah.
It's an interesting country, this one. Got the independence before us. They sort of like pulled away from the colonized around 1957, then became a republic in 1960. Okay? Population around 34 million, which means we are more than them. It also has a coast, borders some countries. In a previous time, it used to be called the Gold Coast, which means they have gold. At least they used to have gold. And if they do have gold, well, let's leave the story right there, shall we?
Okay.
All right. Capital is a place called Accra. I'll be telling you more about that country as we go along.
All right.
Okay. Two men in a burning house must not stop to argue. That's the proverb for the day.
Two men in a burning house must not stop to argue. Ninette, what's your interpretation of that proverb?
They must try and save themselves. If you stop to argue, you waste time and you die. Yeah.
Direct and literal translation. What's the other interpretation of it? What do you think the message here is?
Two men in a burning house.
Or is it as clear as that? I mean,
I
there's
think
nothing
so.
deeper than it. Cannot even get deeper than this. You're in a burning house. You are the two of you. Can you focus on the task at hand?
Get out of the
Which
house.
is to get out of the house
Yeah.
to save your lives.
Get out. Then you can fight later if you live, or you can leave one in the house and you don't have to fight. Karibu sana.
Asante.
Tell us about this department of yours, Policy and Research at the Competition Authority.
Yes, so the department is in charge of supporting the authority to conduct research. So we already know the functions of the authority, which is to advise the government on matters of competition and consumer protection, which is to regulate the structure of the market through enforcement of restrictive trade practices, and of course the structure of the market, which is through merger control. So in order for that to happen, and for it to happen scientifically or in a good way, we have research which provides data and supports that. We also have advocacy, which, as you rightly said, we use the stick on the other side, but on the advocacy side, we use the carrot. It's soft enforcement. We are trying to promote competitive markets through non-enforcement mechanisms. We build relationships with government agencies and with other agencies that deal with competition. We also train, or we try to instill the importance of competition in the market. And we also try to identify and remove anti-competitive clauses in the policies and legislations that are being passed. So basically, we are appealing to your behavioral side to change how you're doing your business. Yeah.
Starting from the policy side,
Yeah.
If the policymakers have come up with policy, with law, with regulations that would not be good for promotion of competition, then you start dealing with them at that point.
Yes, we the law allows us to review the policies and legislations that are being drafted, and then say that this is very anti-competitive, this will close down the market, this will harm the consumer. So we do that. We provide advisory opinions either to the through the National Treasury, of course, to Parliament and to whoever else is developing policies, so that then they are able to change and create pro-competitive policies.
Can you give us an example of one where...
So, for example, in the tea sector, I think 2 or 3 years ago, there were regulations that were being developed. Those regulations would have caused a foreclosure. They would have reduced competition in the tea sector. So we did some background research, we looked at the policies, and we advised that the government should consider opening up the market to other players. And another example is in 2016, there was an investor who wanted to come into the tea market, okay? So they wanted to bring in specialty tea, purple tea. You've heard about purple tea. So the regulations then of the Tea Board of Kenya was that a new investor has to be allowed in by the incumbent. Incumbent here being the people already playing. So that's already conflicting. And of course they would not allow it because it would bring, it would lower their businesses. So he came to the authority, and we gave an advice to the Tea Board of Kenya that this is a contestable market, and they needed to allow or to let in new investment. And following from that, of course, the investor Njeru Tea Industries at that time was able to bring in about 62 million worth of investment. People were employed. New brands of tea were in the market, so consumer had choice. So that's a good example.
Okay. So essentially what we are looking at here is that competition, by virtue of definition, means that people are, or organizations, companies, businesses, essentially in a space whereby they will compete. But the authority it's like any sport. You can compete against each other, but there are rules, essentially, that you would need to follow. As somebody is entering into the market, are they aware of what these rules are? You start a football match and then you toss the coin, and then this one says heads or tails. Will you kick off, or what will happen? Before they do this, are they aware? How do you make them then aware of the rules? Because then one would assume that if you're aware that you can or cannot do this, then the likelihood of you doing it later then is reduced.
Yes, so we ensure that we create awareness on the importance of competition. We have various ways we do that. One of them is capacity building. So every year we have a session where we call our stakeholders, including lawyers, including business people, and teach them about competition. Not really teaching, but sensitize them about competition and why it's important, why it's important for you to comply. We also have other programs like special compliance programs where individual businesses call us and ask them to support ask us to support them in developing programs that will ensure that they're in line with competition. So we do that. The other thing is that we have a lot of publications that go out telling people what is competition, what should you do to ensure you're complying, what will happen if you do not comply. So there's a lot of that, and we also have guidelines. We have developed various guidelines that create predictability and transparency in how we interpret the law. So by the time you're filing a merger case, you probably have looked at our website or other documents that we have published and seen how this case was determined. So you already have an idea how it will go. So and finally, we also publish our decisions. Once a decision has been made, we publish it on our website for publicity.
Capacity building. There are various cadres of people who are your stakeholders. So I hear you bring in the professionals, lawyers, right? You'll bring in maybe other professionals, accountants and all. But how do you reach out to a wider audience, wider public? Somebody is just seeking to open up a shop and they've seen this guy is running a shop and it's doing very well, and they want to open a similar shop, but then they just do not know when at what point they are, running afoul with the law and what. How do you reach out to more people apart from these professional entities, or are you elitist like that?
No, we are not elitist like that. We go until the bottom. So we've also partnered with counties. We have county sensitization forums where we go to the where we are aiming to go to the 47 counties to talk to them, to the both county executives and of course even the Mwananchi on the ground there, to sensitize them about competition. I also talked about publications that we do, and that are really everywhere. We also have social media platforms where we bring out the information on competition. Yeah, so we are not elitist. We talk to everybody. We partner with government agencies. Even when they have events, we chip in and talk about competition.
Are there any fields of endeavor that where the competition authority does not feature? Let me explain what I mean. You've talked about the tea industry. Mm-hmm. What about the building industry, for instance? Are you also involved within the building industry?
Yes, we are. Just recently, in 2021-22, we had some investigation there in the paint sector. We also previously did some work in the cement sector. We noticed that there were some cartel-like conduct in the paint industry. Yeah, so we went in there and we investigated, and the players were found culpable and they were penalized. But once that was done, we also conducted an impact assessment. We wanted to find out, so we have intervened, so what has happened in the market? So we conducted an impact assessment and found that there were about 2 billion savings for consumers based on the intervention that the authority took. So we've done some work in the paint industry, in the cement industry, and we've quite a number of times provided advisory opinions to the National Treasury regarding the professional associations that could affect the housing sector.
Now, could you kind of give us examples of, say, anti-competitive practices that you found in this industry? I'm particularly interested in the building industry, things that people do that are in complete conflict with the regulations that you understand. Question 1. Question 1B. When you found the issues that arose or the flaunting of these competition regulations, what was it about? Was it ignorance? Was it just impunity? What do you find is a common?
So the anti-competitive practices we found was a price fixing. So we found that there was some collision in that sector, that people were selling products at the same price, which is not good for the consumer because then it limits their choice. Yeah. The source, we could say, they may not have been aware, so we went back there and created awareness on
They may not have been aware that what they were doing
was wrong.
We
yes.
just agree. I mean, in this industry, guys, if you go below this price,
we'll all suffer.
Yeah. But maybe it's actually a good thing, because sometimes you find that competition on pricing is detrimental to the smaller players.
Yes.
In fact, there are players who've complained that, a big player who has muscle comes in and decides, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start pushing the price down and forcing everybody else to either come to my price, and if they come to my price, they die, or to talk to me nicely. So is it not, must you look at it as cartel? Maybe they're just doing this to protect the industry and the interests of the consumer.
No, but when they do that, then what happens to the person who wants to come in, who cannot compete with them because they have muscle? So that detriments the consumer who can't afford to pay this high price. Yeah. So it's important that we open up the market so that if I want to compete up there, I can. If I want to compete down here, I can.
I travel by Uber very regularly. In fact, literally all the time.
And Maramoja.
Yes. And one of the things that I have found while talking to the people who own the taxis, who then take me to the destinations I wish to go to, is this. They talk about price wars that these various apps have. And the issue of muscle comes into play. Where somebody who has bigger muscle will just lower that price so that they simply remove you from competition altogether. You're not actually removed, but there's one little, should we say, benefit. The consumer benefits at some point.
Yeah.
Because competition forces people, one, to move away from this excessive pricing and huge profits that they like making. So they are more sensitive to actually understanding the needs of the consumer. So that when you look at the pricing, then there may be variations, but the variation is not overall. The variation is in this area and one is better in this area. Now, I'm back to the building industry again. When you found these irregularities and the non-competitive traits that you came across, what then did you do?
So the players were penalized, and all these are in our annual reports. Really, they were penalized, all of them, and they were also told these are the things you should stop doing. Okay, so they were told to stop, sharing strategic information, stop fixing prices, because we found that is what they were doing.
Did they stop?
Yes, they have. They have stopped.
How do you know they have stopped?
Because we have compliance checks. So we give orders and we give, these are the things you need to do. So every 6 months we go back and check if you're doing these things.
Do you tell them in advance that you're going?
No. But we notify, of course, not way in advance, but we write to you and tell you this was the decision of the authority. We want to check that you're complying with them. The other thing is, I talked about the impact assessments that we conducted. If they were not doing that, would not have, because we did the impact assessment after 3 years, I don't think would have noticed the benefit the consumers enjoyed. Yeah.
And the impact assessment now is going to the consumers.
And asking, in 2020 you were buying paint at X amount.
Right.
How much is it now?
Right.
So we go to both the consumer and the business. Yeah.
As you conduct this research, because your department has to do a lot of research. So there's one impact assessment after a decision has been made. Do you conduct research before to see? Maybe you decide we want to go into a certain sector, again, construction industry, and say we want to find out what the perception is of the companies operating here or the sector itself, what the consumers are saying, what the players are saying. What kind of research do you do?
Yes, we do. And mostly it's to understand what's happening in a certain market. I'll give you an example. We in the mobile money market, when it just came in and there was, a lot of uptake on it, there is the service that's called USSD. When you went to check your bank balance, you do, for example,
hash.
Yes. So that's USSD. So we received a lot of complaints from consumers that they were being charged a lot of money. So it was 10 shillings. For you to check balance, it would cost you 10 shillings. Yeah. So we went into that market because once you receive a lot of complaints, then there must be a problem in that sector.
Yeah.
So we went in there, we call them market inquiries. We conducted a market inquiry, and of course we found that there was the problem, the then dominant player who was offering that service was charging 10 shillings. So in order to increase consumer welfare in that sector, we gave orders, one of which was to progressively reduce that price to 1 shilling over time, so that then consumers can enjoy that benefit, the benefit of innovation, which has happened, and we did compliance checks and we checked. So we intervened there well, the contravention had already happened, but based on our quick action, it was corrected. And I believe this really came into use during the COVID, when we were all using mobile money. So I would believe 50 million of us benefited from that intervention.
When you went to them, so the consumers are saying, just to check balance, 10 bob, just to do this, 10 bob. When you went to the operator and you asked them why 10 shillings, did they have a good answer?
Of course they did. They are in business, but the good answer was not good enough for us. So we
What do you use to determine that this answer is not good enough? I don't feel it.
The value the consumer is getting. Yeah. And plus, even the number of people that are using it. You could imagine it's almost everyone in Kenya using it. So that would be a lot of money with no value being added. Really.
Would you say your office or the business that you're in, or that you people are busy? Would you say this business, this issue of ensuring that competition is always on an even keel, does it keep you very busy?
Yes, it does.
Yes, which means we're a country that doesn't seek to comply very often, does it?
No, we are a country in business.
Yes.
And it's important for, the authorities. As you're doing all this awareness creation, you call it capacity building. As you're doing all of it, then do you have a metric that you use to say, we entered into this sector, there was general lack of awareness.
Yeah.
Now, after our capacity building, there is awareness to the level of 3 out of 10 or 7 out of 10. How do you measure your success in advocacy?
Yes, so there are 2 ways we do that. One is conducting surveys. So we go back to the people we have, or to the stakeholders we have engaged with, and check has the awareness of the competition law increased? Has the compliance increased? So we would do a survey, number 1. Number 2 would be through social media. There's a lot we talk about on social media. So of course we the data analytics would tell us is there increased following, is there increased impressions, sharing, and all that. So those are the 2 ways we measure our impact.
How regularly do you do this?
And a third one, I remember, a third one is a customer satisfaction survey that we conduct. So the customer satisfaction survey is we go back to check on our awareness of the mandate, complaints handling. Are people happy with how we are doing it? So customer satisfaction is conducted every 3 years, and the other processes are ongoing. We do as often as we can, so that also they're able to support our review of our guide of our procedures within the authority. Yeah.
I just want to go into some of the details, excuse me, of how exactly you do this, because I think that understanding it then helps folks who are already in the market, number 1, and folks who want to be in the markets tomorrow. And I keep using a sports analogy because it's what makes sense to me the most. When you're talking about competition, basketball, for example, there are rules that you follow.
Yeah.
But then my effort in the competition is based on what I do, right? How I train, how I eat, how I do whatever.
Yeah.
It's going to then make me, same thing for a business. What I put into it, the raw materials that I use, the labor that I've expended, the amount of money that I spend to give me this product. And when I put it in the market, the arena then dictates how I'm going to be able to operate and the prices that I put on it. For me to then understand how I can then operate within this market, then obviously that's where the authority comes in. But then on what do you dictate? Who's to say that this is the price that we should then play within? Who's to say that I cannot go above this or below it? What if I've used a raw material that I've been able to get from a very cheap source, and I get this end product, I am able to sell it for much cheaper than what is in the market? Would I be flouting the rules? What happens in cases like that? And then when you talk of the advocacy that you do and making sure that folks are happy with what you've set in place, what if they're not happy? Do you then change it? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Or is it already, it's set in stone, so you can be unhappy as much as you like, but that's what the rules are. Like with a basketball, you cannot take steps while holding the ball. You can be unhappy with that, but that's what the rule is. So when it comes to advocacy, are you then saying, even if you're unhappy, what we're going to say, there, you get over it, or can we change it a little bit?
Okay, first, we do not fix prices. We do not dictate that you can only sell, say, bread at 60 shillings. We do not fix. We do
Sell
not
it at 1,000 shillings if you like.
Yes,
Yeah.
we are not a price regulating agency.
Yeah.
We ensure that all the players in that space of selling bread are able to to sell and make a profit. I mean, you're in business for profit. So we ensure that they are in that business for profit. So we will not tell you to sell at a certain amount. But also we have to look at the consumer welfare. And going back, if I use a different example, going back to his example of Uber. In fact, we dealt with an Uber case. There were complaints that when Uber came into the market, the traditional taxi operators felt that they were being pushed out of the market.
Yes.
But we told them you have a choice. You can either join the Uber bandwagon or remain where you are. Or lower your prices. You're there to make profit. So that we ensure that the market is open. We're not fixing prices, but you have the options to either join the Uber bandwagon or remain where you are and, not complain. So about making folks happy, it's not about making them happy. It's ensuring that the consumer is well protected.
I wonder sometimes, because when I hear of complaints, I'm wondering if the shoe was in the other foot. Let me explain what I mean. When I talk to what you call the regular taxi people, the yellow taxis, I use them a lot as well at some point. I still do. Their complaint is that, see, when we charge you, we only charge you where you're going and back. He said, but how is that my problem? That's exactly what they say. So essentially, from what I hear, so I asked them, now, this person who takes me with Uber, they also don't have a guarantee that they're going to get a fare back.
Yeah.
Yes. So I realized the complaint is about they're cutting into the money I like making and the money I'm used to making.
Comfortably.
Yes.
And because
they're disrupting my comfort zone.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and because the complaint then was that Uber and I was charging way less than the traditional taxis. But our advice was, you have the market is open. You can also join Uber. And out of that advice, really, we have seen the number of app-based taxis growing. They're now about 12 or 13, if I'm not wrong. So they have opened up the market, and a consumer is now able to use Uber. I mean, not Uber, app-based taxis, all of them, because they're affordable.
What I also found interesting in those discussions, even if we move away from the taxi business, the client is never at the heart of this discussion. They're talking about their profits. They're talking about their comfort. And yet I would have assumed that if you are profit-oriented seriously, you'd realize who it is who gives you the money and make their lives better. Because then they will not be afraid to give you more money.
And that is why the Competition Authority comes in. We have the mandate of consumer protection. So we are there to look out for the consumer. Yeah.
Can we look at that price fixing just a little bit? Because try to get an understanding of what exactly it means, and then why do you then say don't? Why would product owners price fix? What exactly does that mean? Why would they price fix, and to whose advantage would it be?
To their advantage.
How?
Not to the advantage of the consumer. So, for example, we could agree the three leading bread manufacturers. We sell 400 gram bread at 65 shillings. Okay? We are the leading, so we are the ones who have the highest volumes in the market. We have the highest market share. We're able to even change the flavor anytime we want.
Yes.
So if the consumer really, really wants this X flavor of bread, they can only buy from this one, but at 65 shillings. And yet the others want to sell cheaper, but they can't because these big producers already have a market share. So you've already foreclosed anyone who wants to access the market.
So what's the difference between between that and the example that CT gave? For example, this one has come into the market, the vehicles are charging this amount. So you here, right, who you don't have a choice because everybody else is using this
has gone for this new lower priced
this lower priced one. What's the difference between that, where you have encouraged these other vehicles to say, well, look, it's one of two things: you either join them or you reduce your price? So for these other bread folks, what would be the difference? What would you be saying needs to happen so that now I mean, you either get into the top 3, you change your flavor. What would you say to them? I'm really trying to understand how then you make sure it is balanced.
So then you go beyond the price. You look at other factors. You look at the quality. Okay, and normally in cartel like arrangements, the products. So the cartel players only do certain territories. You know, they even divide the markets.
So sorry. So what we're saying here is that these 3 folks or 2 or whomever it may be, they realize that they have a superior product already.
Yeah.
They know this. They have the market share, majority of the market share.
And
So
a wider distribution network.
Yeah.
So they come together and they say, look, we rule this roost anyway. So how about we make sure that this is the price. We have the superior product. We have the large distribution network. Let's agree that this is going to be the price. Essentially, we have agreed to lock everybody out.
Yeah.
So it has come about as the result of a deliberate action, is what you're saying.
Yes, it's deliberate. And so they want to block everybody else.
Yeah.
And who gets hurt in that process? The consumer.
I see what you
Yeah.
mean.
Because they're forced to go to the higher price.
I want to ask this question. I want to look at an industry that dominates our lives quite effectively, the banking industry. Have you done work with the banking industry?
We have done quite some.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so we have conducted market inquiries that I spoke about. In 2019, we did a banking survey. We wanted to understand what's happening. There were, in order to make it, to invigorate it, and we've also done some mergers in there as well. So the market survey recommended that there is need for interoperability between banks and also between the mobile network operators. Interoperability, which has now been realized. You can use your Safaricom to pay for Airtel. And all of that. The second thing was that the switching costs were very high. For me to move from bank X to another, I have to close this bank, which I was on, and go to the other bank and start accumulating my history for me to be able to access services. So we were encouraging the banking sector to be able to share this information amongst themselves. The third thing was on credit reference bureaus, so that you're aware we are all listed, whether positive or negative, we are all listed.
Yes, we are.
But at that time, they were only listing the negative. So if I go to borrow a loan, then I'm told, you owed, you did.
Listed.
So that was already, I was starting at a negative foot. So that's some of the work we have done. And lastly, we did another market inquiry in the digital credit market, that where the recommendations were that there is need to regulate that sector. Really, it was unregulated. People were suffering. There was debt stress among the consumers. So we advised that there is need to develop regulations for that market. There is need for registration of the players, which now is being done by CBK. So that's some of the work.
When it comes to many of these practices, it's power play. Especially if you're thinking about the financial services sector. Consumers feel like they are inferior to the banks, and they're the ones who take their money to those banks.
Yeah.
When you're going to apply for a loan or for any of these services, you're going to beg for a loan. You're not really applying for it. You're not asking, can you give me a loan? You're like, please. Simwangalie tu mnaweza nipatia wacha watu wa credit wa kuangalia kwanza, and then they take long and they tell you disqualify and with no answer. So there's already a power play here. For this to end, I think the consumer also needs to be empowered with knowledge to know. So this is what the law is. These are my rights, and if I don't get my rights, if I don't realize my rights, that this is how I can come to the competition authority and other regulators as well.
Yeah.
How do you engage the consumer, general consumer, to know what the competition laws say and everything else?
So we have various education programs which directed to the consumer. For example, we have a World Consumer Rights Day, where we actually sit down with consumers and educate them on their consumer rights. And then we have a lot of publicity initiatives that we do on social media, on radio, sometimes on TV, and also on print. We create awareness on their consumer rights. You know, the Constitution empowers the consumer in certain rights.
Yep.
So we do that very often, and sometimes in partnership with other agencies as well. The agencies that also have a consumer mandate, consumer promotion mandate. So we do that in partnership.
From your research with and engagement with the ordinary consumers, what would you say is the level of awareness of these rights and the law?
I'd be guessing, but let me just say that it has increased.
Is it low, medium, high?
It's medium tending to high, and this is why I'm saying it. Over the last 6 or so years, we have seen the number of consumer complaints coming to the authority increasing. In 2012 or thereabout, we were at about 50 complaints. Last year, we recorded over 500 complaints. So through our work, people are getting aware that they can come and let us know what infractions are going on. But we also encourage them that if you have a complaint, you should first go back to either the retailer or the shop or the bank. Sometimes they're able to sort it out. If they're not able to, then you can come to the authority. So there is high awareness, and people want to get their things done right. Yeah.
But they also need like some sort of networking. There's strength in numbers always, eh?
Yes.
And I'm sure your department, as policy and research, you influence even budgets at the competition authority by going to say, you know what, we notice that there's a gap here and you need to dedicate our attention on this. Have you influenced such that the competition authority puts in a lot more money, a lot more time and effort in organizing consumers into groups?
Yes, actually that is one of the mandate of the authority, to empower consumer bodies, consumer lobby groups to be able to advise the consumers. So we have closely worked with about 4 to 6 consumer lobby groups. We have trained them on what consumer protection is, what should they tell the consumers when they engage them at the grassroots level. So that is one of the mandates, and we do that, and we have a budget allocated to that function. We've also developed guidelines on how to engage with consumers, to create awareness and predictability on what consumers should accept. The other thing is that we have conferences that we do, and we invite the consumer lobby groups, just like the upcoming ICN conference.
What's that?
So ICN is an international competition network. It is a network of competition practitioners and competition agencies that provides a platform to learn from each other, to adopt best practice, to know what is being done by other agencies and how to benefit from that. So we have that upcoming conference on 22nd and 23rd February this week, Thursday and Friday this week. And we have registered about 30 to 36 different agencies from different countries to come and talk about competition advocacy and why it is important to pursue competition advocacy.
From which parts of the world are they coming?
From various. So ICN has over 141 memberships. So we have people from, of course, Africa, Kenya. We have people from Europe, Asia, all the continents basically. Are attending the conference.
What's the objective? So what do you want to do at the end of the day, at the end of this talking shop? You go back home and say, guys in Kenya are doing well. And then?
So we want to learn from each other. We want to exchange experiences. We want to exchange the challenges that different jurisdictions are facing on competition regulation, and also learn from the best. There are some who are ahead of others. There are some younger agencies that have just only started implementing the competition law, so they'll be able to learn from the older ones. And we have topical discussions discussions going on. We are in touch with what's happening currently. We have discussions on food and agriculture market. We've all seen recently that the food prices have gone up. So what can competition do in that space? We're talking about digital regulation. I mean, we are all on digital, whether it is social media or mobile, we are on digital. The other thing is climate change and sustainability. I'm sure competition has a role to play in that. And then, of course, there is the MSME that is one of the government agenda. How can competition regulation through advocacy support MSMEs? And finally, we have, of course, the AFCFTA. There's the competition protocol has been developed, so it's in the process of being operationalized. What can we competition practitioners contribute to its operationalization in order to increase trade in Africa?
As you do an overall, would you say that in Kenya today, with the different organizations that are involved in this competitive market, that essentially there is fair play amongst businesses? Or would you say, okay, well, it's a bit of a sticky situation? If you were to give an overview of how businesses operate amongst themselves, what would be the diagnosis for Kenya?
I would say it's work in progress. There's a lot of improvement, especially in the sectors that we've already intervened. We are noting lower complaints from certain sectors. So it's work in progress. Yeah, there's an opportunity for increased compliance, and we are up to the task. Yeah.
And then just really quickly on the lower cadre, because there are a lot of businesses that don't find their way into the profile or the index, operating in whatever level. Is there an opportunity or hope to bring them into this basket to make sure that they also do comply on that across board? You have this, compliance registered.
Yes, we reach out to all business at all levels, including MSMEs. And one of the other way that we are supporting them is through merger control. We have thresholds where if you have a certain threshold, then you don't need to notify us. You can continue with your business. Beyond this, you notify us, but you're exempted, So we try to engage at all levels. We are not leaving anyone behind, to use that phrase.
Lastly, as we wind up,
Yeah.
how do you determine that the products that we manufacture, whether it's foodstuff, drinks, that the contents that they advertise as being in those products are actually what it is that they have said?
So that is a mandate of Kenya Bureau of Standards, KEBS. Yeah, but if we receive a complaint saying, the ingredients say this is 100% fruit, but it's not, then we now take it up and we do the testing to actually verify it's not. And you'll find, you're contravening the law. That is false and misleading representation. You're lying to the consumers that this is real and it's not. But we work together with KEBS in that.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ninette, for joining us today. Ninette Mwarania is the manager in charge of policy and research at the Competition Authority of Kenya. We've been talking about achieving competitive markets through advocacy, and also she's told us about the upcoming conference, the ICN. It's the International Competition Network from Thursday and Friday. Are we invited? It's for you guys. It's for you guys. Oh, you'll tell us then what happens.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.